KOIN 6 News Election Night News Break.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this campaign update. It has been a busy night, and let's take a look at some local races, results that have not been decided yet.
Well, this first one has. We want to start with Kate Brown, which was an easy one for Oregon. We know that she defeated Bud Pierce, again, for Oregon governor.
In Washington, Governor Inslee holds on to office. No surprise there.
And also, Oregon's most contentious measure, 97, that is one of those, Jeff, that did fail.
Measure 94 also failed, which would have eliminated the mandatory ages judges had to retire. Those are the only two ballot measures in Oregon that did not pass. We're joined by our political analyst, Jim Moore. And Jim, so we had some what I call happy initiatives on the ballot. There was outdoor school, that passed for Oregon students, and vocational, 98, which seemed to have wide support. Both of those passed.
Actually, those passed, and apparently we're not going to trade in rare animal species anymore. So, as Jeff was pointing out, if you're going to get your alligator shoes, you have to run and get them now.
Do it now.
Yeah, so those passed. The interesting thing to me is usually only a third of ballot measures pass, and this time we had a much higher percentage that passed.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned ones that we just haven't called yet, and that is the Secretary of State in Oregon. We don't know the percentage of votes that have come in quite yet, but at this point, what are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at Richardson has a slight lead in that race, but the problem is we have 1.4 million votes cast. We still at this point don't know how many total votes there are out there. So is this 68% of the total vote, 95% of the total vote? If we knew that, then we could with more certainty say what was going to go on in this race.
Okay, let's talk about the national scene right now. And the big story right now, CBS saying any moment they'll probably call this for Donald Trump as our next president. None of the polls had it. I mean, it seemed like everything was all over the board. We have seen this in the last few years with polling. What is happening?
The main thing that's happened is people are now not talking to pollsters. So you try to get a sample, and in the old days, you'd call people or you'd stop them on the street, and you'd get 60, 70, 80% of them to respond saying, hey, I'd love to take part in your poll. Now, when they get a phone call, they say, I don't want to talk to you, and response rates can be below 10%. So there's some self-selection process that's going on that pollsters don't understand yet. Thus, the margin of error is much bigger than people are acknowledging, and we're seeing that in the results tonight.
Well, is it true, Jennifer and I were talking about this, people are drawing a parallel between what's happening with Donald Trump tonight and the Brexit vote in England?
Absolutely. And when you look at them, the Brexit basically passed, and when you look at it, it didn't pass by that much, but it was expected to win. And so it went the other way. When we look at the national numbers here, this is a very close election when we look at the national numbers. And even the Electoral College still could be pretty close here. But the polls indicated that it would be much more strong for Clinton. And it's that unknown. Why is that self-selection process? That's where it got us here.
I think another big story, too, is voter turnout. I mean, it was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But where was that enthusiasm from some of the voters for Clinton like they were for Obama?
Well, here's what happened. In places like Florida, where they have record turnout, so there was the enthusiasm for the groups that wanted to support Clinton. But in effect, they were drowned out because people who hadn't turned out were enthusiastic as well. So from my point of view, it's a great for democracy because we have more people taking part. But if you're a Democrat, it's a bad night because, in effect, your special groups got swamped by the Republican special groups, all very, very close. Florida is nip and tuck, but it, in effect, drowns out all those special moves to get all those people out.
Well, Jim, thank you. Let's get back to CBS coverage.